dogs and horses and piglets outside. And we're actually just remarking on that and the fact that it doesn't look like it's going to be any different tomorrow.
No, not at all. How often do you see on your weather report app, how often do you see 100% chance of rain?
I mean, I
100%.
never have seen that.
That's
I haven't seen that in a minute.
That's ridiculous. That's tomorrow's forecast, by the way, in Johannesburg. In many African households, serious conversation now, mental health is still treated as something that should remain hidden. Conversations about depression, anxiety, or emotional struggle are often avoided, as though acknowledging them might bring shame or expose weakness within the family. Silence becomes the coping mechanism, even when someone is clearly hurting. Yet behind closed doors, many people continue to carry the weight of sadness, stress, and hopelessness. Depression is one of the most common mental health conditions in the world, affecting hundreds of millions of people. It can drain energy, cloud thinking, and make even the simplest daily task feel overwhelming. While the causes of depression can range from biological and psychological factors to the pressures of modern day life, there are practical steps that can help people begin to cope and recover. To further unpack, we are joined on the line by Olwethu Kwaza, the South African Depression and Anxiety Group SADAG Call Center Supervisor. Olwethu, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to The Upside. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really happy to have this conversation. I'm feeling good.
I tell you what, it's oftentimes such a somber topic to be talking about, depression, because many a time it's a hush-hush in our communities. We don't address it. We don't talk about it. Why do you think that the stigma still persists in this day and age, where social media is readily available, where people vent out their frustrations, their concerns? Why are we still so quiet about depression?
So, I mean, 10 years ago, we would easily say that it was the knowledge and understanding that wasn't there about depression, that the education was not streamlined, and therefore households and people as individuals could not learn and understand what depression is.
Yeah.
I think currently the problem that we're experiencing now is the narrative, how depression is explained and how it is sort of lived as a narrative to others. The knowledge that we speak about and the education that we speak about is through word of mouth. And if we share stories and understanding about what depression and other mental illnesses is, it's easier for others to learn about it. But if the narrative is not okay, if the narrative is not changed around what depression is, what it looks like, what it feels like, and how it exhibits itself in others and in people, that's where the problem is. So I think that's why it's such a very hush-hush topic that we don't necessarily speak about because of the narrative that is driven. It's in the conversations that we have at work, in the conversations that we have at school, that can sometimes perverse, the language around mental health and the language around depression. So I think right now it's the issue that we're experiencing is the narrative and the stories that we're telling around mental illness and mental health that deter people from talking about mental illness and depression specifically in the household.
Okay, we're 19 minutes into 1 p.m. in Central African time. Very important conversation around breaking the silence around mental health. And as Olwethu has just alluded to the fact, it's in how we are breaking that silence. What is the standard of conversation? What quality of questions are we asking ourselves and others as we talk about mental health? Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
6 decades strong, Channel Africa continues to inspire Africa and the world, proudly sharing
the African perspective.
The whole population of Africa has been shocked to the depth of its soul.
For 60 years, Channel Africa has been the voice that connects the continent, telling our stories and sharing our vision with the world. This year, we mark 6 decades of broadcast excellence.
60 years of stories, sound, and connection.
6 years of African conversations that matter.
This is 60 years of broadcast excellence.
Broadcast excellence. Rooted in Africa's heartbeat and looking boldly into the future. Join Channel Africa as we celebrate 60 years of broadcasting. Still strong, still vibrant, and still giving you the African perspective.
Channel Africa.
The Upside, 1 to 4 p.m. Central African Time. With Tebogo Lekhuleni and Mosito. Only on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
A pleasure to have you join us this afternoon on The Upside, exclusive to Channel Africa, all around the continent and the world. We are currently unpacking a very important conversation around anxiety, depression, and the conversations that we're having around mental wellness on the continent. Olwethu Kwaza is joining us on the line as a representative of the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, or SADAG, as it's known. She is the call center supervisor. Olwethu, let's talk about just where we are as society. This is another conversation that we need to have around, and I've heard people ask it in different ways, but are we becoming more fragile mentally as a society because of the things that we are seeing and exposed to at this time?
I think the word fragility may be seen as maybe a detriment or maybe a bad word, but I think it raises to the issues that we're currently facing. If we look at socioeconomic issues, particularly in South Africa, we look at the state of gender-based violence and all these other factors and issues, we start to see that there is a rise in depression and anxiety. And although I'm not an expert and I can't necessarily speak on this, but I think it is important to look at how the rates of depression have increased and looking again at external factors that may cause that. So really, we can definitely say that there is an increase and there is, we do see that there are increased levels of depression. While that is said and that is put across, it also makes organizations like the South African Depression and Anxiety happy to know that people are speaking more about it. Because in order for the statistics to show that there is an increase in depression, it is people talking about what they're experiencing and what they're exhibiting. And in talking about it and opening that conversation, we're able to, again, prevent depression from happening and maybe alleviate the symptoms that people are experiencing now, and then mitigate the prevalence of depression going forth.
All the way to working in the call center, what has been the common triggers and causes of depression and anxiety from the people that you have been engaging with, those who are calling anonymously? What comes out at the top in terms of the cause and the trigger for heightened anxiety and depression?
As I've mentioned, there's a number of things that sort of affect people and it gets to depression. But I think we look at socioeconomic issues, we look at familial issues, we look at relationship issues, which are very common and they definitely trickle in the call center when people are calling. But I think the bigger issue here is not being listened to, is people feeling like they're not heard. Because I understand that if you are experiencing something and there's something that is putting pressure on your mental health and on your emotions, talking about it alleviates that pressure. But what happens with a lot of South Africans is that they don't feel heard and they don't feel understood when it is that they talk about emotional pain. And that then becomes depression, because that pressure tends to sort of, it increases. And when it does that, that's when it becomes depression. So I think over and above, the familial issues such as familial disputes and dynamics, relationship issues, financial issues, unemployment, and all these other factors that we see in South Africa. I think the bigger thing that we are seeing in the call center is people not feeling heard, is people not feeling understood, and maybe even just listened to when it is that they speak about their emotional pain.
Right. I think it's quite important to just get a sense of, the experience from the helpline as well. Because you gather a lot of data through the work that you're doing at the helpline level, as it were. So are there any particular groups of people, whether it's young people or parents or teenagers, who are calling more frequently than others at this time, in your experience?
So we get sorts of people calling. Depression and other mental health issues do not discriminate. And so every single person calls in, whether you are affected vicariously or you are affected, more fourthly as a person. Everybody calls in. So we get calls from young people, from men, from women, from older people, because it affects everyone. So we can't necessarily say that there's a specific group that calls more than other people. And in saying that, again, to re-emphasize that it makes us happy that people are calling in and we're seeing that diversity in calls, because we want to look at how we're addressing that conversation around mental health and not necessarily who calls us. So we're seeing a marginalized group of people who call us. And that's why we do try to center our education and our awareness to those groups. So, for example, last month we had Teen Suicide Prevention Week, which was an entire week of educating about teen suicide. And then in the next week, the last month of the last week of this month, rather, we're going to be having Bipolar Awareness Day. This is where we're targeting all groups of people who may be experiencing bipolar directly or even vicariously. So all groups and all people are calling, because mental health does not discriminate.
Sticking to the bigger issue at hand, Olwethu, how can we better listen to the people at home, our friends, our family? No doubt the agents are trained at SADAG, at the call center. They're able to deal with the different concerns that are being brought to the table. How can we listen better? What are some tips that you can share with us and our lovely listeners at home so we can deal with it in our homes?
Yeah. So what we teach in the call center is that it's important to listen intently, to listen actively, and to listen empathetically. And I'll break that down. When we listen intently, we give our time and our energy to listening to what that person is saying. It also means that we listen without responding or wanting to respond or wanting to fix whatever has been brought to us, but listening so that we can understand what this person has said to us. And then listening actively, making sure that you are taking all of the points noted, because it is in those points that you understand what this person is going through. It is in those adjectives that the person will present to you that you understand what they're feeling, how they're thinking, and what their behavior has been like ever since they've experienced this mental change. And then it's also listening empathetically. It's making sure that you're not judging when you are listening or wanting to judge what a person has gone through because you may have not experienced it, or you feel that it's so easy to just jump out of it and continue on with life. So the most important thing is to listen intently, it is to listen actively, and it is to listen empathetically.
What a gift it is to have someone like that. That would be just such a beautiful thing. Although if you are listening to the program and you don't have somebody who can offer you a listening ear empathetically, then you can call SADAG. Please remind us, Olwethu, as to how we can get hold of SADAG should we need any assistance. And I've heard people ask, is there payment, for the services? So perhaps you can get into that as well.
Yeah. SADAG hosts a number of 30 free helplines. They are toll-free, which means you need not pay for it. And we are not a paid service. You can call at any point in time with any issue that you may be experiencing, and we will be happy to assist you. The numbers are on the website at www.sadag.org, or you can call 0800 567 567. You can also call 0800 456 789. You can also find our WhatsApp numbers and our SMS lines on our website, which I'll repeat, www.sadag.org.
Olwethu, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and strength to you too, because working on the other end of the line, it must not be easy every single day getting to hear these stories that are lived experiences of many people, and we hope that you also find healing and counsel yourselves as those who are serving. But thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me.
The voice of Olwethu Kwaza, call center supervisor at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group SADAG. Go on social media or on Google, search SADAG, that's SADAG, or South African Depression and Anxiety Group and get their toll-free contact details and get in touch with them. 30 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African Time. Let's get the latest sports. I'm not happy. The Proteas lost, which okay, I'm not going to say it.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Well, a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Musibu Dimakura with the latest sports news at the Sawa. We'll start with the story. South Africa is ready to step in and host the Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament. That's if Morocco is unable to stage the tournament later on this month. That's according to the Sports, Arts and Culture Minister, Gayton McKenzie. Now, speaking at his department's press conference on Wednesday, McKenzie described the uncertainty surrounding the tournament's hosting as a shame and disrespectful to women's football on the continent. The tournament is scheduled to take place from the 17th of March to the 3rd of April, but Morocco has reportedly indicated to CAF that they are not ready to host this year's tournament.
So I think here is a matter of everybody except South Africa. You can't give this to South Africa. So if you can't give it to us, host it. We'll support you.